Yeah.
Ready to go.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Right. All right. I will formally declare the meeting open. Welcome to our new Chief Executive, Peter. And we have no apologies, but we are.
Tracy.
Oh, beg your pardon, we do. Sorry. Yes, Tracy is an apology, and Neil will be joining us very soon.
Yeah. Oh, here he is.
Perfect.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Are we
Hello.
just going to hear?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you. Sorry, I was late. I just technology. I kept on trying to join the wrong meeting.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't sound like technology's fault now.
It was. I was trying to join the one I just come out of.
Okay. Right. So I need to move that we receive the
That's what
apology.
yes,
I'll second those.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Alrighty. So minutes of the previous meeting. Any comments, amendments, changes? Nope. We have of course circulated them previously, so that's good. Okay, I will move that these we confirm those previous minutes.
I'll second those.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Right, declarations of interest. Just to any updates to the declarations? No. Oh, beg your pardon. I'm now director of SBS Bank, but that's of no importance for me to do. That's something else I hadn't done. Okay. All right, that's just for us to note. Alrighty, we've got the policy register update done.
Good morning, everyone. So the first paper you have is a pretty simple and procedural paper because it's really a catch up from the June one. Obviously we weren't able to, due to sickness, present a paper at that one, so this is simply catching up and putting it on the public register. So,
Yeah.
Okay. This is?
I think yes, so yeah, because we
Okay.
have a good sort of talk about it, but it's just didn't see that.
Okay, and then so we move on to the now valid paper and going through the register. So again, organisationally, we're within the expectations, though we've just dropped a little bit at now 87.7%. Going through in there, you'll have some papers that are being discussed today. So sorry, some policies being discussed today, such as the procurement policy. Community experience, almost there. David, that was your libraries piece, which is a piece of work you're doing with QLDC, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah. So we've met with them and there's a fair bit of work that's got to happen within that policy, and we'll be working to that over the next few months.
In my area, community vision, we're just below that 80% marker. One area in there is the community development strategy is what we'll likely now do is actually extend that until the district vision project is finalised, because of course the district vision project will inform the community development strategy. So we look to extend that, and the media policy is being linked in with the social media policy, because those two cross over somewhat as well. Planning and infrastructure meets the threshold again, and there's conversation happening around the gambling policy. Lee, I'm not sure if you want to provide it.
So just reviewing in relation to whether or not we amend the government policy to bring that back to council in relation to sinking lid policies, or not, the case may be, the pros and cons in relation to all of that. So that conversation is still live before we bring the report back to council.
Thank you. People and culture, the house rules has now been replaced by staff code of conduct, so they will be back up to 100%. Okay, and then in the water area, no change there. Open to questions.
Okay, well, I know it's not a competition, but I know business services is 97.5.
It is better.
Of course, it's a competition.
Zasky's not here to bask in the.
Yeah.
Okay, so any comments or questions on this?
I have two questions, Madam Chair. One was just I think I know the answer to both of them, but I should still ask them.
Mm-hmm.
The drinking waters policy, I'm just trying to find the right page for that. Obviously, there's massive sensitivity in that department with what's going on in Queenstown in particular. Is there any added liability to us through not having that? Is the old one rolling over? Are we exposed by having nothing, or an old one, or does it add any risk to us in that highly risky space?
Yeah, so obviously the reason it had been out of date was because we had been awaiting conversations around Three Waters and that transition may happen. Of course, the transition date has now moved, so it's a conversation I think we need to pick up with the director of Three Waters and understand better. I think that you're right, though, Tim, without that policy in place, potentially more risk.
Right.
What about the practice?
That's something I need to bring Julie in.
Yeah, okay.
Can I
That
just
was my
question
question too.
that? Are we really at more risk? Because the regulator is actually, policy or not, the regulator is the regulator, the rules are the rules and the law is the law. The policy, I'm thinking, have not got it in front of me, but does it make much difference, to be perfectly honest? I can't imagine it does anything more than what the law says.
Yes, I think compared to the other liabilities in the Three Waters space, if there is extra liability, it's minor, but is it going to trigger us to be one of the ones they look at closer more quickly? That kind of thing. Is it? I don't know what I don't know, and that's why I asked the question.
And I think there's organisational reputation risk, which would be quite significant.
Yeah, but if practice isn't meeting regulation, that's the, I mean, because the policy will help you meet regulation.
Yeah.
If the policy's out of date, the practice may be
Still.
better than policy, but the key is what's the practice.
Especially with some of those other ones that are also on hold, and it would be good to know how quickly we would need to move on updating those if Three Waters is in next month.
I'll make sure we have Julie available for the next
Thank you.
conversation.
Certainly, there's quite a bit in the annual report that was on Three Waters that I regrettably didn't send through till this morning. The other question I had.
Sorry, just before you go off, I think to move this one forward, it shouldn't wait for an Audit and Risk Committee meeting. It should go to council ASAP with an update. Why wait for us?
Well, this will go through to council and the question can be asked and clarified then.
Well, the update I think Neil's looking at is what is the current practice and how safe is the drinking water?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that should go.
Not policy, but
Right.
just,
So you only received
I think that would be council's concern, isn't it?
Is it enough to elevate it to that?
If it's easy to get assurance, I'd get assurance.
Yeah. Okay. Good call.
And hopefully the answer is an easy, yep, we're all good.
Yeah. Doesn't make us any more.
So did you want it to be part of Julie's abatement?
Yeah, pop it in there. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Oh, here we go. Good.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Wayne. The other one I had, Madam Chair, is just on the gambling policy. Obviously, that's a highly regulated space. So does that create any problems for us legislatively, not having a gambling policy in place, or does the old one roll over?
Old one continues in place until
Thank you.
actually being reviewed.
Cool. Thank you. That's all I had.
Any other questions? I just have one, and this is page 31, and it's emergency management. And I think we've just sort of discussed this before, because there's a note here saying that they're administered by the IRC. And my recollection was when we said, can we check with Otago Regional Council that these plans are all up to date?
On the community response plans,
Yeah.
is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
So they are administered through the staff who are employed by ORC. So they're in essence ORC own plans, but of course they're part of our community.
Yeah.
So the teams are working in those communities. The team had hoped to actually be available to speak to those, but aren't available today.
Okay, so perhaps we could just put that for the next, next agenda.
Yep.
Just to note that, just to get an update. Yeah, because if it all turns to custard saying, oh, this was OAC's
Yes.
responsibility, won't be very helpful. No. Okay. Alrighty. Any other questions? Okay, right, with those, what are we doing? Recommending
Just receiving.
just receiving? Okay, so I will so move.
No, second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay.
Over there, 23.3.2, also need to move that. That's the June.
Oh, okay, so I'll move
Yeah.
to receive the June report.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. Okay, so there's just a couple of actions there.
Yep.
Yeah, got that. Okay, cool. Alrighty, risk management policy. Okay, Amelia.
Thank you. I'll just start by saying, just for clarity, that there was no track changes policy attached to this report, and that was probably needed to be more explicit in the report as to why that was the case. But we've gone from quite a simple, short policy in this case to something more substantial with quite a massive overhaul in what's proposed. So it would probably have been more of a hindrance than a help to provide a track changes version. So that's why we just attached the old version or the current version and the revised policy. So to just walk you through what's proposed, there'll be 4 main elements of risk management, and those are key risk management, which includes what was formerly known as strategic risk management, operational risk management, project risk management, and operational risk event management. So each of those pillars will hopefully give us a really good overview of what's happening within the organisation and gives us a broader look from all levels. And they'll all inform each other as well. So it's really key that we're not looking at these things in silo. So without going over what's written, I'll advise that it'll probably take 12 to 18 months to implement what's proposed. And within that, there'll be a lot of upskilling of the organisation, and we'll hope to be in a better position a year from now to kind of come back, do a small review of the policy, see what's worked, what's been rolled out well, and what might need to change. But other than that, I'll take questions.
I think it's worth noting that that's to be implemented. It's not describing how things are done.
Yes.
But the expectation is 12 to 18 months and it will affect how things are done. So it's a bit of a journey. Okay. I suggest we just go through each page and any questions everyone's got. So I refer to pages in the pack. I think it's easiest. So page 53, just covering the purpose and everything. Any questions? Page 54, 55, 56. In 56, sorry, I wanted to say too, I think this is a great evolution. So we've come from the very sort of baby steps, next level. So this is good. In the risk framework though, there's no mention of council, which I thought was a strange omission.
Yes. So this works on the basis that all the information was fed through this committee, and then anything that would need to be referred would be a decision for this committee to make as to whether that goes up to council, but that can be amended.
I think it's better to have council in there because we are, council now receives the key risk register, what's going to be called the key risk register now, don't they?
Yes, well, when the new thing is done,
Yeah.
and they'll start receiving it every time. Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's Because really, at the end of the day, council was one responsible for making sure that, yeah, so, and there aren't just elected members on the Audit and Risk Committee.
And I don't know that have we got the delegations to do some of those things either? I don't think we have. Anyway.
Oh, when we get to, yeah, but certainly in the framework, I think you need to add council on there. Okay. Because at the end of the day, it would be council that's accountable. Okay. Okay, so page 56. Okay. Key risk accountable. No? Any comments? Anyone just call out, please. 58.
Yeah, I had one here, Madam Chair, and I'm not hummed and hard whether it was just me being pedantic or thick, but I'm imagining a new staff member coming in, getting this policy, getting briefed on it amongst 100 other things, and whoosh. And I'm looking at and I realise it's an ISO risk management process, so who the hell am I to comment? But the reporting is at the very end. So is there a chance that somebody might look at this and go, I've got to do all of these things, and once I've done all of these things, then I report it to the next person up the chain in a real world situation, or am I just being too pedantic? Because somebody sees a risk identification. I'm driving a vehicle with bald tyres, and so they take it to the garage, they get the bald tyres fixed, and afterwards they tell somebody. But in the meantime, I've got 3 other vehicles, and they haven't told me one. Or am I just going too far? Which I can do. I appreciate that.
He's going too far.
Thank you, Neil. You're always there for me, Neil. Thank you so much.
I think
I could be wrong.
the distinction between a risk and an issue.
Okay.
If you've identified an issue, then you would
You go and do it. Right.
And that would come under your health and safety and identify. Yeah. This is the risk management process with a capital R. Yes.
Okay.
That was the polite way of saying you're going too far.
Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you.
Okay. All right, page 59. Page 60. I had a couple of comments on this one. Residual risk assessment. I think you just need to be crystal clear in that first section. It's implementation of existing controls. Because a lot of people get confused and start to put in the best of intentions. So just to clarify that. And in risk appetite, you've only defined the risk appetite for operational risks and not key risks.
So currently we've only defined it for operational risks. I think when we get more mature in this space, we'll be able to look at how we define it for the strategic and the key risks. But at present, I think what we see is we'll probably be out of appetite on a lot of those key risks.
That's not the reason
And
that's sort of one.
Yes. But then we'd kind of dilute that process to, we know that we're out of appetite. So once we understand what our key risks are and where they're looking, we can start to understand whether we have that appetite defined for all key risks or for each category of key risk, or what's going to work the best to understand how that appetite will build.
But given the knowledge that this policy is going to be 12 to 18 months to implement, isn't it best to have this up front as well? Because I can't imagine how the key risk appetite will be different. And just because you're out of appetite at the moment, when you assess them, because we've got the key risk register later, is not the reason not to include it.
I think at present, we're not sure what would be classed as out of our appetite. I don't think we understand what our appetite is at present for those strategic risks. So I'm not sure the value that would be added by including that, but we can go and discuss.
I think a foot of them.
Yes.
Saying works yet to be done on acknowledging it, because otherwise the policy is just strangely silent on it. So perhaps a yet to have set appetite or this is a piece of work that will be done as part of the implementation or something like that. So it was just glaringly absent. Yeah. We'll go back and review that, and we can have a look at it, so we can put that in for a note, and then we'll come back and we'll have a review. Yeah, and that's probably something that then comes back to audit and risk for a discussion to then perhaps go in, you know, so it is a agree, it's a process, just not have it there, just, so.
Has the council had an opportunity to work through the risk appetite for the strategic risks at this, or is that a bit of work in progress at all? Because that's a conversation, obviously, that we'll have to have with the council, all the councillors and the chair of the committee.
Yeah. So
you can tell us where your risk appetite is.
Yeah. So I think it's we've put it in as a work to be done kind of thing. The other thing in the matrix, and this is seen it elsewhere, often risks that are considered rare, highly unlikely, but extreme consequence are the ones that you really need to worry about. Because they're the ones that you can't do much about, and to allow some of them to be considered classified as low. A lot of companies have at least very high all the way down that right-hand column, you know, the rare but extreme. To sort of, for the sake of symmetry, to have some of these, you know, medium and low, I've just challenged that. Okay. Because if something is, albeit highly unlikely to happen, but is extreme, you don't want to be taking it and thinking, it's fine.
We can definitely go back and discuss the ELG level, and the reason for that was that our extreme or 5 rating for impact is quite a low threshold for what would be classed as extreme in other sort of scenarios. With probably the exception of health and safety, I think we would feel very comfortable with the low, and that conversation probably around that health and safety threshold being a 5 impact is a potential fatality. Yes.
So it might need to be discussed, like you said, perhaps in setting the extremes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, right, page 62. 63. Yeah. 64.
Just to be pedantic, one, Madam Chair, refers to the PAR committee, or just the AR committee.
Is that?
Office 63. A couple of references to P, or 3 references to PAR, which I presume is, I can't think what the P is, but I'd say the AR is all written. What's the P?
You're at the top of 65.
Am I? Oh, apologies. Thanks, Jane. I'm having a great day. And 2.
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, well spotted. That is audit and risk, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And I did on page 65, ongoing training. That would be great. Especially if elected members are going to be looking at what our risk appetite is.
Yeah, okay. Right, so 65, 66, there's the appendices. So what you're saying at the moment is the extreme impact, apart from health and safety, which I agree, you know, killing someone. The others are not so extreme. So has this had a good going over by the ELT, or is that part of the implementation?
So this has been reviewed by ELT, yeah. And I think it was deliberate to keep that extreme fairly low, because the previous version had some quite high extremes and things that actually we wouldn't want to tolerate at all. So we've kind of brought this down so it actually aligns throughout pretty much all of those categories. So from financial through to systems, that actually, when you're talking about extreme for one, that's at a similar level to all the other categories as well, rather than having an extreme system data and information loss being, well, this is absolutely terrible. Or financial, that's not so bad, but we've actually kind of tried to make those aligned so that when we're talking about an extreme across all the categories, that's the same level of risk.
Because generally, if you were thinking about extreme risks, if they came to happen and be an issue, you'd be seriously thinking the CE's gone and the council's well under threat if all the councillors banned. You know, that's the sort of extremeness that you need. Do you think you've kind of dampened it down a wee bit because you don't want to have any risks that are reported as, because you're saying would be out of tolerance?
No, I think it's the other way. I think we've brought it down to a level where actually we would be reporting more. So it's brought that threshold down so that actually the right things can be pushed into the right categories rather than saying, that will never happen, so it can't ever be a 5.
Right.
We've brought it so that the right things will be pushed through that process.
Yeah. Okay.
We had quite a few meetings around it and challenging our thought process and what is good. So it would have been about 3 times that we got together and reviewed it.
Excellent. Okay. Cool. 66, 67, 68. I think it's excellent putting in project risks in there. And page 70. Okay. Right, so with that, there's a couple of suggested changes, but subject to those changes, we're recommending to council.
Yeah, well, there's, I guess, 2 options. Making those changes and going straight to council or coming back.
You don't want to wait 3 nights. No. So, subject to those changes being made, I would happy to, I move that we recommend to council the revised risk management policy.
I second that.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. It is a good step. That's a good, sounds like it's a good process and you've really been engaged, so that's the case. Okay. Right, procurement policy. 192.
Procurement policy, which probably took up quite a bit of this meeting prep. So conversely to the risk management policy, what we've done with this one is we've reduced it quite significantly from its 66-page length previously. So other than just aiming to make it more clear and more succinct and user-friendly, we've made a few key changes. So the first one is that the threshold for requiring a market tender has increased from 50,000 to 200,000, which obviously sounds like quite a jump, but is more reflective of actually what's happening externally and the increase in costs that we've seen and what you can really get for $200,000, as well as how interested suppliers are in even bidding for work that's under that threshold, and also allowing there to be fewer barriers to local companies who might not be as comfortable with a full tender process to actually provide us with quotes instead, and perhaps increase that local economy a little more. So that's the first kind of major change. We've split the processes into standard and non-standard to make it really clear that actually we can do what we need to do, but there's a different way to achieve that. So if we want to do a non-standard procurement, there are additional levels of approval that are required, but it's not preventing anyone from getting the best outcome through using the right process. We have clarified that procurement plans are required for procurements over $50,000. I think it was contradictory in some places. In the previous policy, it said 10,000 and sometimes it said 50. But we put that at 50,000. Obviously, if people are doing something really complicated that would happen to fall under that 50,000 threshold, they'd be recommended to use a procurement plan. But that's probably going to be quite rare. And we've also added clarification that if a report is provided to council explaining on the procurement that's going to be happening, say a 12-month period, then a resolution can be made to allow the chief executive to sign off any contract awards within that procurement programme. That's currently happening in the water space and is working really well. We just wanted to clarify that that is something that other areas could do and could utilise if appropriate.
It's certainly much easier to digest, isn't it?
Yes, so much easier to even understand.
Okay, so with that, well done. Let's just go through it quickly and see if there's any comments or questions. So then I'll just refer to the page numbers. So 139.
Madam Chair, sorry, just I don't have my note in the actual procurement policy. I had a question about that 200,000, which is in the body.
Okay.
Just do we know how, and you'll know in one case anyway, how does that compare to our contemporaries, our neighbours? What's sort of industry standard? Yeah.
But across the board, there was a recent conversation across a few councils in the procurement space where it's currently sitting from policies about 5 years ago at 100,000, and people are looking to increase that now as they go into their policy reviews. So it is quite aligned with what everyone else is doing.
Certainly not way out of whack, is it? Thank you. That's good to know.
So page 140, I just had a suggestion in here with, or a challenge, I suppose, with the principles value for money, and whether it was worth just adding in that it should be balancing cost and affordability, but it's whole of life. It's not just what does it cost up front. So I think that would be worth just expanding a little bit. And page 141, collaboration with Akaha, is that something that is currently happening, or is that something that will happen?
It's happening in pockets, I would say, probably not consistently.
Okay, but it is doable, because you don't want to put anything in the policy that's not compliable.
Yes, so in that section, it was being very careful to put consideration within there. So not everyone has to or should use that collaboration approach because it might not be right. And even Okaha would agree with that approach. So we've been very clear that it's consideration exercise within the policy.
And I saw mention to the tender procurement document, so that would have more guidance in it.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just take that a little bit further?
Yep.
And I'm being the picky Neil, because when you go to the contents page, collaboration with a car sits under broader outcomes, but just your formatting doesn't seem to make that differentiation in the body of the document itself. So I just think either the contents is either formatted wrong or the document's formatted wrong. And then my next thing is saying, I know we know who Okara is, but actually in this document, if you pick it up, you've got no idea who they are. And if you're new, you might go, well, who's that?
Yeah.
Just so no issues about what's proposed, but actually let's make sure it's quite clear what we're talking about. We don't have any definitions in this policy.
Yep. Yeah, and
everybody should know who they are, but
yeah, and that formatting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I've contributed now.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, page 142. 143. 143, non-standard procurement, third bullet point. Should that be obtaining 3 quotes? We've got the quotation 3 quotes.
Oh, yes. It should be the word obtaining.
Well done.
And you're referring to directors. Who are these directors? Throughout. There's reference to directors letters there.
Yeah, that's probably coming from a CCO if we don't have, right?
Group managers, directors,
Oh,
and chief
sorry,
executives, who are they?
That's Julie's role as
So
three
what's
office director.
Julie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she not a junior manager?
Just involved in
A director, okay, I see the word director and I think governance, okay. You got more than one?
I think it's just the one role.
Yeah, it's one.
Okay, one. Group general managers, directors, and the chief executive. Okay, there's just one person with the title director. Okay. Page 135.
I just wonder if we've only got one director, should we actually not name that position as what it is, so there's clarity about it?
Yeah, it's a living document, isn't it? Good question.
It is just it's just a position, it's a quirk of position naming, isn't it?
Do we have levels of delegation?
Yeah.
So
It does
so-
refer to only one in that group manager, group general manager or director,
Except in the first paragraph.
except in
page
the first
134.
paragraph.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
And if we end up with any more.
but if there's a director of free orders or something, if that's the title, it might be worth just putting that in. I don't know. Semantics. Yeah. So what page are we up to? 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153. And that's where I found the flow chart. And previously I'd gone, oh, flow chart.
Yeah, that's right. I've made note to break the chart.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's 153. And we're done.
It's really good to have that straightened out.
Yeah,
So
much
just an overarching question for me is that this document's quite fundamental to how we do our business, and is the one that will, if we don't follow, will bring us into, disrepute's the wrong word, but raise questions about what we're doing. So I guess the key thing about this is that this is pretty significant. Or am I picking it up wrong? But this is almost one of the most significant documents that I would find myself in my work life to say, if I don't follow this, then life falls apart. And I think the key thing to note out of this is that what I like about it is that it sets out something pretty clear, pretty concise, reasonably understandable. Well, sorry, I'll rephrase that. Perfectly understandable. And there are no excuses not to follow it.
Yeah. So the expectation now is there'll be compliance with it.
Yeah.
So what's the rollout education or clarification to people?
Yes, so there will be a full rollout of this to all teams across the organisation. So as well as updating all the documentation available online, there's a procurement toolbox that's available in the intranet. There will be face-to-face rollout of this policy. And I think just having my position in place gives people the chance to ask questions as well, which was been missing for a while. So that should help with the compliance of this as well.
And if I may, Madam Chair, given that what we do is we procure services to deliver the support to the community, if we don't own the services anymore, then this is fundamental to the functioning of this council, successful functioning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry if I may as well.
Absolutely.
Chair. And this is very pedantic, but we just need to change that logo, please. We've currently got the World of Difference logo, and it's not World of Difference owned policy.
Don't have that somewhere.
Change that to CODC.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any other ones.
We'll do a scan.
Okay, so, subject to those amendments, which were very minor, I move we approve the policy and recommend it to council. Second that, Tom?
I'll do that. Absolutely, Madam Chair.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you.
Stuff.
Thank you. Oh, God, 1, 2, play.
Don't we love it?
I think the fire siren's going.
It.
I shouldn't say that. I might tempt fate. Sorry.
Okay.
Good morning. I don't believe I've met you before, Madam Chair. I believe this is your last.
It is.
Last one too. So yeah. So my name is Christina Martin. I'm now the organisational project manager. A new position which has been created, and one of my jobs is doing the LTP. So yeah, quite a chunky project. Before that, I've been in the property team for about 8 years. So just giving a bit of an update as to where we're at. Some good news stories to start with, which is the pre-engagement to the LTP is completed, and that was the community brainstorming project that we did. It was a new initiative by our communications team and went pretty well and was well received, so that's great. All of those ideas that were considered by the community board and council has now been given to those activity managers to consider as they're preparing their activity management plans and their budgets for the LTP. Also, another good news story is we did a last push to get all our workshops completed in the last week. Those workshops were where the activity managers could give a background of their activity and what issues they're facing heading into the LTP as well. We were going to be bringing you the draft significant engagement policy, but the update there is that it has been delayed to the next meeting of Audit and Risk, but for good reason. We're wanting to incorporate OKAHA in the conversation as well. So we've got a meeting with OKAHA midway through October and to get their feedback and input there. So that's another good step forward as well. There has been a few more things that.
So now we head over to
Okay, so we are delayed on actually submitting the budget numbers into the model. That is for good reason, because we are currently going through taking the model apart piece by piece. We discovered that rates are not falling into reserve accounts that they should be, which is actually against the rating law. So we are actually going back and unravelling about 6 years worth of information. We've got funded depreciation that's not sitting in reserves, that's gone somewhere else. So the model isn't transparent the way it's been set up. It's not transparent, so costing to managers can't actually easily see how things are being funded. Capital expenditure, whether there's a loan that's due for repayment, etc. It's not transparent and it's not actually going through the right course of action. So we're having to backtrack on that. We take one step forward and two back. So we are delayed, but we will have to go through a process of actually tracking every budget holder's input right through the system to make sure that every glitch is being fixed. And after that, we will have a robust financial strategy that we can adhere to going forward. I do think there's going to be some fixes. So as in reserve accounts are in deficit, that we're not expecting to be in deficit. So we're going to have to think about that over the financial strategy for 10 years of how we can correct that. And so that's another thing that you've got to think about that will be on top of the rates that we've already discussed through the workshops.
So it's not just the budgeting, but then it's the actual reporting that's going on.
Yes, so the budgeting sets the rates. So when things aren't flowing through the cost centre, right, your rates are set from that. So it's saying that, you know, this is the balance and therefore this is what you're going to rate. If all the way down here isn't right,
then the balance is wrong.
the balance is wrong and you're not actually rating correctly, then that can mean that you're in a loss. In most cases, it means you're in a loss, which will mean that there will be an increase on rates to correct that over time. I'm not suggesting we would be correcting it. And it's not like, I keep coming back to the aerodrome one because it's actually got a number of factors in it. And we would expect that that reserve account had depreciation money in it to fulfil the capital program that we've got planned. It's actually $1.8 million in deficit. Yesterday, we found out that actually there's a loan repayment going through, but it's not being rated for. So that's another reason that the reserve account is going into deficit, because we're not rate funding the loan repayment.
We're paying the loan through deficit, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea is, yes, we are behind, but it's really important that we track everything to get this tidied up once and for all, and make sure that cost centre managers have got transparency around that, as well as you know, the finance team, etc., so that they are, when they're writing reports, etc., they can see what money is available, and they can understand the transactions that are going through their cost centre, so that it's flagged if there's anything wrong.
Managers would be very much looking forward to being able to see how much they've got and how much they've spent.
Yeah. The issue has been is that I don't know that what's required has been well understood, and then you've had quite a high staff turnover, and there's been a real complexity put into the model. Excuse me. The level that's not required, where you need that transparency, it's all been bundled up so you can't see it. So yeah, I can't get a report that actually says this cost centre is rate funded for this, not rate funded for that, and this is how you're going to fund your capital expenditure. You would expect to see that. You would expect to see, if you were funding that capital expenditure depreciation reserves, or if you were funding it out of the loan, you would expect to see the interest cost and the loan repayment coming from rates. Would. So it flows all into your actual, because the process starts with that budget and you set your rates at the beginning of the year, basically. So it's really important that we do just take the time to get this right.
Is some of that bundling of the more complex things because of the difficulties to find accountants with Rating Act and local government experience, or is it more a case of it's easier to bundle it together, or nobody knows?
Nobody knows. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it was. Yeah, I don't know. It's we're working with the provider. It seems that it's reasonably bespoke, so it's not like they can say to me that, you know, they wouldn't have expected to see this either. But it's a matter of, you know, probably there was a lot of people having an input into it without the experience of how it works all the way through.
I think that a lot of organisations are starting to feel the pain of the actual impact of what high staff turnover means.
Yes. Yeah.
And it means many eyes at different times and doing things and little workarounds, and before you know it, you've got a sort of a bit of a cluster or Like we had, what was here, wasn't it? We had that procurement failure, we had to go back because someone didn't understand how to get it. And, you know, you just don't, you lose the IP and people with the best of intent. And there's a lot of organisations that are feeling that that real cost of staff turnover is actual, you know, people to do the do.
Yeah. And I think by unravelling it, we might actually find that we are able to keep staff, particularly in the finance team, because it's not a big blip.
Would be
Dark
simpler.
holes. Yeah.
Yeah. Accountants don't like disorder in my.
They tend to create it.
And if I may mention, the Magic Enterprise tool which we use, which probably got 30 odd, 40 odd accountants in New Zealand use, and I came from a previous organisation, it's complicated, it's not user friendly, and I'm surprised that they haven't invested more effort into improving it. But the fact of the matter is, that is the system that we have. So we have to make it work, but it is complicated and simplifying it is a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And through Madam Chair, I'd just like to say how lucky we are to have Susan come back to council with her knowledge that she can actually help us unravel this and make it better for future L2Ps as well. We're very lucky. And from a project timeline point of view, it is really important that we get this right. And also, rather than the approach of everyone budget input and then the finance team analysing and checking in, the process of actually checking as we go as well, it can actually, we can just tweak it a little bit and still sort of make our times as well. We're still aiming for that. Yeah.
If we go to the timeline on page 157, I was a bit confused about the UR here. We've been in December.
It's on.
Yeah, and I thought, gosh, you know, that ahead of time.
Then go to Christmas.
But that's not quite what you're saying, is it?
But you
No,
have
behind. No,
And we're not December 02, are we?
Oh, the fuzzy bees in the wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also through you, Madam Chair, heard you say we've finished our workshops, but we haven't, no.
No,
Good.
Okay.
no, it's fallen down. It should be.
So we're at July, August.
We are at audit and risk.
So we've missed it.
This one, we should be between workshop 6 and
No, that
community.
must have
groups.
been my fault, so
Workshop six,
apologies.
community board.
I
Well,
can
that's
update you all
okay.
through the.
Yeah.
Have the community workshops, have that workshop 6 that's been done?
Yeah,
So-
workshop 6 would have been.
So
Well,
we're
what was-
two actually, I think this is totally incorrect.
It's totally wrong, because we had that huge
It's
workshop
totally wrong, so that,
this week.
that is totally my fault. So I'll through Wayne get you an updated copy, the latest copy.
So
might just be
we've been through all of the workshops with the community boards and council. There's really not a lot more to do here. Hasn't been great news with the cost of things. And what we would anticipate is trying to make up time through the numbers, and then we come back. We're looking to come back with a really good handle on the whole picture on the 13th of December meeting. There's a couple of issues that we're going to bring on to a workshop in November that have popped out. And sort of funding streams and things becoming more districtised. And that's on the 29th of November.
And if I too may just jump in on this particular point, Madam Chair. Myself, Christina, and Susan, and I'm not sure the council as well. The information that will come forward to elected officials will provide options. It won't be a fait accompli. There will be some investment choices and some disinvestment choices. And so we're pushing that across the organisation, because this is going to be some tough decisions that have to be made, and to balance across all the activities will mean that some tough choices will have to be made.
And if you've got that budget thing sorted, you'll be able to pull different
That's right.
levers and give council some informed decisions.
And I think it's realistically, I think it's going to be a plan for a plan, because we still, in some form, in some former communities still going to be affected by three waters, and that's the cost of that is so significant that we will need to spend the next period of time just working through what the best way is, depending on whether it goes to a separate entity or it doesn't go to a separate entity, on how we can actually structure the rest of our business to get the gains, some gains, so that we're not actually putting the rates up so significantly.
Yeah. Is there a thinking around what you do or don't do versus the outcome of the election? I mean, if it's Labour-led, then it's uncertain in timing, but push on. If it's national-led, it's uncertain in structure and timing.
So the what we will be advised at the moment is you put 2 years in that you are transitioning on. Thank you. So for us, that's 2 years. However, because we are at this point, we will not put waters in until the last. That will be the last. So because we're going to go through budget entry step by step, we will be putting 3 waters in after the election. And probably at that time we will get something from Tatora if it's a national-led government as to how much we need to change right from that. Yeah. Yeah.
At this stage, it's just so unknown because we don't know
exactly
the process is so far through that it can't be wound back. We don't know what the impact of a 2 or 3-headed coalition may be on either side of the so it's just a bugger's money.
Yeah, and if I may again, and it is currently legislation that we have to comply with. So even after the election, we're still bound by the law of the land. And until it's repealed, we have to plan for what the law tells us.
Yeah.
So which is a real hybrid. So it's not included in the infrastructure strategy, but it's included for 2 years in your figures. So then we have that 3rd year of the highlighted plan where we've got the standard overhead. And so that's where we won't do a lot of work around that. In that 3rd year, we will start that work probably once the LTP is signed off, as in knowing where we're going, and we will look to review the revenue and financing policy for that particular section of their budgets.
Which again is what a number of councils are doing. It's likely that councils will have to go through an amended LTP process, and that in our particular case, it's the 3rd year.
Yeah.
We've just got to be accepted and relaxed. I mean, that was always the we're never going to do that, but we're just going to have to go again.
Yep, we are.
We're going to have to.
And one would hope we can get a model that allows that to flow, which is the idea.
Yeah.
And so that brings me on to the last point there. Once again, we have delayed the museum investment strategy. So that is obviously something that's been on the LTP timeline. And that's because we've just been working through the operational and funding models for the Cromwell Memorial Hall. So the papers that have been coming to council have only got the operational grants that have been given to museums at the moment, whereas we know that the cost of the museum at Cromwell and the new build is going to be a lot more expensive. So in their last round of numbers, there was looking like close to $1 million. So we need to regroup and actually work out how that is getting funded. And it may not be fair to say that that's all museum related, because if it's not a museum in there, it will be still that footprint. So there's some work that we've got to do on that journey.
Really good idea about how we can fix that.
All right, so, I move to receive the report and note the progress, with the buzzer being 5 minutes. Yeah.
No, I've seconded that. Whatever that may have been.
We don't need to receive that again.
Oh, you don't?
No, no.
Apologies for not done.
Okay, I also move.
I've seconded that.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, thank you. Thank you. Oh, not before morning tea, aren't we? Good morning.
Morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Hannes Strydom. I joined the council 2 months ago as Health, Safety, Wellbeing Advisor, so this will be my first report. So I take the report as read. Just want to highlight a few things. So in terms of our Health and Safety Wellbeing work plan, we had the KPMG audit earlier in the year. So we're working through the actions from that audit and the recommendations. So we started work with the risk assessments of some of our higher risk roles to complete those risk assessments. Another recommendation that we started working on is looking at requirements for when our people are working alone. So looking at a lone worker app, so that our people can contact emergency services in case of an emergency. Then just in terms of trends in reporting that you might have picked up already. So we've seen an increase in reports of violence and aggressive behaviour. So this reporting period has gone up to 9 compared to 3 in the previous reporting period. I think that's just because we've always felt that there's been an under-reporting of those incidents. So it's good to see that reporting coming through. For incidents involving the public, so that required first aid injuries, so that's reduced from 12 to 4 in this reporting period, which is also obviously good. And then the last point, just in terms of Mental Health Awareness Week. So we had a few events last week or the week before during Mental Health Awareness Week. Really good uptake in terms of, so our EAP supporter facilitated a session around the 5 ways to wellbeing. We also had a speed networking event, with also the speed dating event for people to connect with colleagues and to get to know them better. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, welcome and thank you for the report. So not any comments or questions?
I just had one, and it's possibly more for you, Lou, than health and safety. That recurring theme around career development coming up, and I just wondered, is there a career development plan offered to everyone? And
we are in the throes of creating a learning and development pathway. So what we currently have now is a one-to-one document and also individual development plan. So we do it now, a light version of it, and what we're hoping to do is create a learning and development pathway so the organisation's got the tools to be able to go and have a look at that, and then people from there, people being understanding what their career pathway can be. There's quite a few elements to it, so it's on the work program, and even along with our conversations in the LT, talking about where our strengths are and our succession planning. That's coming.
Perfect. And is that going to be compulsory for people, or will it continue to be something that people can choose to do? Just having come from an organisation where some people just wanted to stay where they were and were made to do other things.
I think along the lines of our values and the way that we've been going the last 3 years, it's about, connecting, working together and understanding the people and having those conversations on where they want to be.
Yeah.
And we need people that want to stay where they are as well. We need people doing business as usual.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that development and training can't be how to do that better.
Totally.
I know some companies too, because again, this is a part for teaching as well, is offering, if you you've always wanted to learn how to do cake decorating, then go and do it. It doesn't have to be specifically related to your job. You can develop people in a broader sense and allow and encourage that type of development of just something I've always wanted to learn. Which is important.
And if I may, Madam Chair, when we talked the other day, or I talked in the long-term plan, a big focus is around that leadership and giving our leadership team the capabilities to have the right conversation with their team and be able to develop and train them along the way. There's so many people in the organisation that have an array of transferable skills, and I think us as a collective on the ELT team would like to start talking about those people too and create that succession plan. And yeah, there definitely was a conversation on our way down a few months ago. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Tim?
No, we'll see if Neil's got in.
We can't see if you're paused and back to.
No, he's shaking his head.
We can't see his
No.
physical
Why
face.
can't you see me?
Oh, I can see
Good
you.
luck.
Oh, you can see me. You can see me, Wayne. Oh, that's all right. Lucky
Yeah.
you.
I did have a number and they're just perhaps for my information.
Yep.
The Hannes, the page 167, the incident on the Nevis Road, we're talking about the implementation of the lone worker solution, but they were two people, so that doesn't really apply. I was just wondering, have we got a Starlink phone that we can, here you go, if you're going up to places like that, or Falls Dam or whatever?
We haven't, but that's one of the solutions we're looking at in terms of the lone worker app. But then you use that in combination with a Garmin device that can connect to a satellite.
And if I may say, through Madam Chair, we, through that incident, and we've created like a standard operating procedure with the roading team as well, because it highlighted quite a few things through that incident after doing the investigation report. And I believe when we were talking about it, we may have a possibility of borrowing one of those devices off emergency manager. So if anyone wants to go and do that work again, but we've completely changed the process with that work. So we're not putting people at risk. And Chair comment, there were two people, but it was actually the South Rand coverage.
Yeah.
Change next year with Vodafone, having 100% South Rand coverage. Really?
Yeah, right.
Texting at least.
Yeah, texting. Is it maybe time to look?
Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Maybe we just have a burner phone that people can take with them. But there were a lot of findings that came out of the investigation, so we've tightened. We've completely tightened that process, even to the point of when you arrive back in town, you need to let the manager know. There's been quite a few outcomes out of that.
Imagine the other. Sorry, Tim. The other thing is too, picking with our e-roads that we also know where our vehicles are.
Yes, we do, Neil.
Yeah, so to tie that in as well and make that part of the whole lone worker thing and the connection to that. There's lots of ways of trying to cover the different options.
Does e-roads work when you go out of internet coverage?
Yeah, but the solution we're looking at, actually, the app integrates with e-roads.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Just further down on that page, the incident with the threat of a shotgun in Clyde. I mean, that's horrendous, but is there some sort of a general, got to be careful of this person, get put out amongst our people, because that's, and I'll have a pretty good go at saying who that was if we were in Republic. History of antisocial behaviour or things like that. It's fine to identify the risk, but how do we manage it? By saying to our staff and our contractors, hey, this person may have an anti-establishment or an anti-council viewpoint that could one day create a higher risk. What do we do?
I don't know. I mean, we can obviously trespass people, and we would be aware of those people, but I don't think we currently have a process in place to flag.
So if that happens and we have a health and safety officer go in to check the food rating, unknown that this person's made these threats.
You almost need a warning.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say, Tim, I think there's no, we don't. However, there are quite a few conversations that potentially would have around having an organisation.
Yeah.
And we've also got that privacy.
You've got privacy issues too.
Yeah, we do. But potentially that is something that we could have a look at and just see if there's something that we could potentially create.
Yeah.
Maybe keep it alive.
Well, there's an obligation too, because the obligation is health and safety to the workers or to the contractors. And it's likened back to lines companies who had meter readers and smart readers now, but you had to know if there was a dangerous dog on premise.
Yeah.
You know, you had to let them know. And to not let them know that there's someone wandering around who threatens to shoot people.
Yeah.
I think it could come back to bite from that sort of perspective.
Yes, I may, share, sort of speak on behalf of our team manager as well, just implementing new call centre technology that allows us to be able to track some of that kind of stuff, obviously with the restrictions of privacy and the like, but it's a really good step towards having the right technology to be able to understand that a bit better.
And I think the educational piece around health, safety and wellbeing as well, like, after our recent audit and the findings that are coming out of that and taking the team on the journey to be able to, educate them about the rights and what's going on and have those conversations. But it took us a bit of time at that incident that you're referring to, Tim, for them to actually even come and tell us that that incident had actually happened. So, that is a journey that we're on as well.
Yeah, because that's something I was going to raise where on page 165, you say notable incidents are normally raised to the council employee who manages the contract. That's a wee bit vague to tell contractors if something like this happens, you just kind of tell the person who manages the contract, whereas I would have thought it had to come straight into health and safety reporting. So it seems a bit sort of vague and hopeful at the moment that these sorts of things would get reported.
And what we picked up, sorry, Hannes, what we picked up from that is there's still that element of fear sometimes from people to report at times higher level stuff, because it's like her reporting against what's going to happen, and I think we're in the trouble. So we're really taking some steps to fix that, but there's still, and it was a contractor.
Exactly, but then you're still the PCB area, so you've got to put that requirement on the contractors so that you can show that if they didn't tell you, they have breached your rules, and your rules were very clear. If you don't have clear requirements, then you're at risk of being culpable for.
So definitely, I've been raising awareness over the last 2 months just in terms of the importance of reporting, how to report as well. So we had to sort out a few issues just with our reporting system, but that's being sorted out, and raising that awareness as well.
And that would mean that, like in the example of the serious nearness on page 167, there will not be subcontractors on site who haven't been inducted.
Because that would be a requirement for that particular contractor.
Okay.
And the only other one I had, Madam Chair, was because it gave me a headache and I went backwards and forwards and upside down. At the bottom of 167, I can't find what the attachment one is, that the 6 priority critical risks are noted in. Because there's no attachment, and I've gone and tried.
Oh, yes, sorry. So that's actually on page 159. So
the honeycomb.
Yes,
it's got 7. No, that's what threw me.
I
thought it had to be that, but I thought, am I missing something?
No,
that's what I asked.
No, that is.
I thought that was it, but I thought just in case I was being.
So there's 6, but actually 7.
Cool, thank you. That's what I thought. That's me.
And if I may too, and just to reassure the board, health and safety writ large, it's one of those areas where for all chief executives that it's sort of like the eye of mortal nowadays, isn't it? You focus on it. And even from my time in the army, that sort of stuff, this is just a big deal. And so this is one area that I will always be paying particular attention to.
Great. All righty. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And it's a good report, and good report to me when we hear things. Because we can see things.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I move that the report be received.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Yes, carried. Cool. Thank you. Oh, chief's report. So every meeting I get to the chair's report and think, and say, I have nothing to say. But I thought, given it was my next meeting, I would have something to say. So I would just like to acknowledge the time, spent at ARC and meeting, great people and great support from, various, I don't mean various committee members as in some weren't supportive, but we've had various committee members over the time, so, and management team. And I have greatly enjoyed my time in CIDC and seeing, because when I started, the Audit and Risk Committee was brand spanking new. One didn't exist before then. So seeing the development has been, really, really good. So yeah, I think we're quite comfortable handing it over in a better state than it was to start with. And now we do have, we do know what policies we do have. We do know what policies we don't have. We've got much greater tidiness on that. We didn't have a procurement policy or risk management policy or all of those things. And some of the policies that were there were just years out of date, never been looked at. So it's good. Been through a couple of years, 3 CEs now.
Wow, great. Yeah.
You're the third.
No.
So,
Not through you.
Time lucky.
Many GMs and procurement managers and health and safety managers and so it's been a sort of, sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but progress has been made. And of course there's been one constant all the way through the 7 years, and that is Neil. So thank you, Neil. We've even got governance, quite a few stable within the GM team, but a lot of change over time. So just wanted to acknowledge that. But I will move that the chair's report be received.
No, second of Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Members' report.
Well, I'll just follow hard on the heels of what you said, Madam Chair, that I think you arrived 6 or 7 months before I did. It wasn't long. Yeah. And so we both came in pretty fresh, and the lawyer and me came in here and saw a lot of habits instead of processes. And it's been a great joy to, when you look at your policies and your how many we've now got and the plans that are in place to make things, not because that's the way we've always done it, but because it's the best way to do it. It just fills me with great comfort. And you've led that, and we greatly appreciate that leadership. It's been a pleasure to work with you. And I've learned a lot from you, both in the audit and risk space as a chair, so thank you for that personally. You will be missed, but absolutely respect your decision. And what have we got? Just looking at me blankly.
Bruce.
I've got Bruce, but I'm wondering if Wayne's got a card in the present.
Oh, yeah, do you?
Stop looking at me like that.
There you go.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you, without deep thanks and respect, thank you.
I'll open that later, but I think
Okay.
that's what it is. Okay, thank you.
You have a moment.
I was just going to take
If I haven't got it, you have it. Well, you can- I think
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so otherwise you could just put a sticky over it and what?
Well, good, yeah. We'll just put Chair Robertson for the, That's me, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. And Tamara, you had something you wanted to raise?
Yes, just probably more of a question as opposed to a member's report, but just, and perhaps for Peter, in auditing with Audit New Zealand, we understand there will be a significant increase coming in costs, and just wondered if there is a way that we can improve our engagement, have everything lined up, ready to go, streamline the process to maybe work on shaving some of that cost at the front end. And Tim likened it to handing your accountant a box of receipts saying, here you go, as opposed to handing the books over saying, here's my books.
Actually, and for you, Madam Chair, you're quite right. So Audit New Zealand, their costs across the country have gone up quite significantly. And ours is quite a significant uplift. The exact quantum I can't recall now, but we did have a meeting with Audit New Zealand last week that team that's running the sort of with us. And so we have been able to negotiate into that transition. So I think, off my head, it'll be an 85% figure that was if the uplift is say 100%, it's 85% we've been able to negotiate, and the second year it'll be like 91%. So they have reduced their cost to us for this particular audit. LGNZ has raised the matter with the Office of the Auditor General and all that sort of stuff, and continue to do so. And of course, they have also upgunned in terms of their staffing, because I'm not sure, but maybe 2 years ago, particularly last year as well, it was incredibly painful. Because at the same time, they're auditing us, they've got other government agents, Crown departments, and everything else. But the surge that is needed from overseas and internal resources is huge. They have recruited wide and far. And so I think most of the auditors seem to be South African at the moment. And so we do have to bear that cost increase. And, we are working closely with them on the audit discussions and all that, so that the process is as smooth as it can possibly be. And then once we get through this audit, then next year we'll be able to audit again with the consultation document and all that sort of stuff will be the audit as a result of that, the auditing thing. So I wouldn't say it's a bit of a scam, because we all have to be audited, but it's a significant cost. And we have very little, we have no discretion, and it's quite a monopoly really.
Hopefully the efficiencies and time spent can mean that, if not going up, at least not, doesn't keep.
I think there's a positive relationship with the auditing team that's coming out here, the lead plan and that sort of stuff. So, and look, they are just doing their job, and they can be pretty thorough, absolutely. And so we just have to make sure we can make that as easy.
Right, thank you. Give them some extra coffees.
Yeah.
Do some baking. You work hard if people you like.
Okay, well, I will move that members' report be received.
Oh, can I just, sorry, can I just,
Neil.
yeah. Madam Chair, interesting when you were just reflecting on your term, and I thought, I might have been here with Linda first too, yeah. So thank you for reminding me of that. But yeah, really to reinforce what Tim has said, and I think in days gone by, audit and risk for councils, and our one is, in particular, was one of those tick box exercises that you didn't really understand the implications of, and this you've brought to us and told us quite clearly and encouraged us to make sure that actually this is really important, and it's even more important than think what anybody will give it credit for. It's been a very good learning experience for me. Picked up a lot of things, and having an outside perspective has been great. So I can just say, especially for me to you, yeah, good luck in the future wherever you end up, and I'm sure our paths will cross in an airport somewhere again, as they often seem to do. But otherwise, yeah, nothing else of any other relevance to the committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Well, I'll move the members' report be received.
I'm sticking those.
Okay, all those in favour say aye.
No.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, status reports. What it is, I just, no comments. I will move that the report be received.
Thanks. I'll move that, second that.
Excellent, thank you. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And we've got the date of the next meeting. We don't need to move that, do we?
No, just the amendments.
Right.
You don't even need to worry about
I know. Yes, it's already booked with other stuff. Yeah. And we do, just before we break for morning tea, resolution to exclude to public. I will so move.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Thank you.
Awesome.